Happy Hump Day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a new episode of Call It in the Ring, a wrestling discussion with Marcus Stewart. And today we are going to be recapping last night's Smackdown Live, July 17th, 2018. Thank you for joining me, wrestling fans. And again, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can also download and subscribe to the show on iTunes as well as Podbean on Google Play. Just search for Marcus Writes About Games, and you can have episodes of Call It in the Ring, as well as any other podcasts, usually gaming related, added right to your digital front door, so to speak. But yeah, let's get to last night's SmackDown. This is the fallout from Extreme Rules this past Sunday. And we kicked things off with Jeff Hardy, former United States champion Jeff Hardy, coming out to the ring to address his, I believe it was a 6-second loss to Shinsuke Nakamura following some shenanigans. He came out and kind of did his a live version of his recent promos where he's, talking about how he may look like Jeff Hardy, and he may have his face painted like Jeff Hardy, and he may have jeans like Jeff Hardy, and he might be wearing armbands like Jeff Hardy. And he may have come out and done the Jeff Hardy dance, but he does not feel like Jeff Hardy because he does not have the United States Championship, which only recently in his entire career has been a Jeff Hardy thing. But, he basically says, hey, tonight, he's got his rematch in the main event against Nakamura for the title, and he basically said, hey, I'm gonna get you, Shinsuke. He does not address Randy Orton at all, which is weird for, to kind of ignore a man that stomped your balls while you were already laid out. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, that was pretty much the extent of his promo. And backstage, we got Shinsuke reacting to Jeff, just saying his normal, calling Jeff a sad clown, and saying, yeah, I'm the United States champ. It's going to stay that way for a good long time. Our first match of the night, we got Andrade Cien Almas versus WWE Champion AJ Styles. And apparently this match was set up on YouTube. There was a clip where Zelina Vega, Andrade's manager or business associate, whatever you want to call her, pretty much approached AJ and said, hey, you should fight Andrade. And AJ's like, sure, I guess. But yeah, this was a matchup where you're just like, as a wrestling fan, you just go like, ooh, like just gets your jollies going, just makes your, if I was a dog, my ears would perk up like, really? And, because AJ is AJ, and by that I mean he's, well, phenomenal, I guess, to steal his own name. And Andrade is awesome as well, and this was a really nice back and forth match between the two. It's amazing to me still. I've mentioned this before about Almas, but I watch NXT every week, and I have for the last several years. And I remember when Andrade first arrived in NXT and had that kind of disastrous debut when he faced Ty Dillinger at, I forget which takeover, but Andrade came in as a good guy and was up against Ty Dillinger, who at that point was really, really hot, even though he was a villain. And so the crowd was 100% behind Dillinger, which really rained on Andrade's parade because he was just kind of this weird smile. I mean, he was like a smiling babyface, but he had the weird kind of like pimp hat thing. Like, it was a weird look. Like, he just had a weird kind of mishmash of personas. We're like, is this supposed to be something that we cheer for? And being up against a huge fan favorite like Ty at the time did not do him any favors. And since that debut, he floundered as a babyface because there was nothing really interesting about him. He just kind of came off as just another guy. And I remember thinking like, wow, like it's rare to see someone in NXT, especially like a big name that they hype up, because he was one of those guys that they really built up post or pre-debut. It's rare to see someone like that flop down there. And he was on it. He was on the fast track to being one of the rare NXT bust. But then, about a year into his initial run, they didn't give up on him, which is something that I think a lot of wrestling promotions kind of have to keep in mind, especially WWE. Like, you never know what you have until sometimes it just takes a little bit of tweaking or repackaging to find the right thing for someone. Like, look at Kane. Like, before Kane became Kane, he had all those other, like Sir Isaac Yankem and Fake Diesel, like all those weird gimmicks before they were like, oh, Kane, that works, So you never know what you have. Sometimes it just takes the right thing. In Andrade's case, it was turning him heel and pairing it with Zelina Vega, because when they did that in NXT, it was off to the races for him, where his performances got much better. His new aggression was great. Zelina, I've said this before, is perfect in her role as the angry, just manipulative manager. And, he very quickly skyrocketed and became the NXT champion. And, now he's on Smackdown fighting against AJ Styles, the WWE champion. Like, I would have never guessed that during Andrade's first year in NXT. So, great for him. AJ won with the calf crusher. Like I said, this was Andrade didn't need the win. This was a great showcase for him to get him noticed. Because, you put him against AJ Styles, it's going to be eyeballs on him. So, like, if you weren't kind of keeping your eye on Andrade before, I think you are now. Post-match, he had kind of a little bit of a stare down with AJ. Didn't lead to anything, but it was kind of like, I guess it seemed like a seed being planted for the future. I don't know if it's something they're going to explore in the near future, but there's, they might have just set something up. And, just to kind of establish Almas as like, oh no, he can be a player. He can be a real player going forward. Good match. Next up, we got Aiden English, a dejected Aiden English. He was sulking backstage. He's upset with himself for kind of inadvertently costing Rusev the match, his WWE Championship match at Extreme Rules. And he wants to find Rusev so that he can apologize, probably in song. But alas, Rusev could not be reached because instead Lana intercepted him. And Aiden said, hey, can I talk to Rusev? And Lana's like, hey, I don't think he wants to talk to you right now, in her now non-existent Russian accent. Which I guess that's going to happen with, when you come in WWE with a fake accent, eventually it's going to go away. Look at Kofi Kingston. Even though Lana can legitimately speak Russian and did grow up in Russia, even though she's American born. So it's not like she's a total like fake, I guess. Like she went to, I listened to a podcast about Lana, she went to school in Russia, she can speak Russian. That's why she's pretty damn good at the accent. So, it still works. She can still do the Russian thing and not actually have to speak or sound Russian. But anyway, I'm rambling, as I do on the show. Let's call it in the ring. I just call it on the fly. But they're kind of teasing a split between Aiden English and Rusev. We did not see Rusev at all tonight, so I guess maybe we'll follow up in this next week. Maybe he'll Machka kick the bejesus out of Aiden English. We'll see. I like that pairing. I'm curious to see where Aiden goes on his own should they split. Next match, we got Becky Lynch versus Mandy. And by that, I mean Mandy Rose. That's her theme song. I like her theme song, by the way. And I like her entrance. I'm a sucker for unique entrances. Like, she has the entrance where, like, the camera looks steamy. Kind of, like steamy, like a shower. Like if you were filming in a hot shower and it gets all foggy. That's kind of what Mandy's entrance looks like, which I think is cool. I like little unique touches like that. 'Cause, the idea is that she's an incredibly beautiful woman, which she is, and she kind of has this kind of like what would you call it? Like her music. I don't want to call it porn star, because that seems kind of like a cop out or too easy. But this kind of like erotic, just romantic music that fits her very well, and she makes the most of it when she comes out. And her and Becky, they fought. It was a fine match. Mandy is getting better and better in the ring. She's already a pretty strong character. So yeah, like I like Mandy Rose. There's a lot of potential with her, as there is with her buddy Sonya Deville. But it was not tonight that potential was realized, because Becky Lynch tapped her out with the disarm her, and post match Becky got on the mic and pretty much said that she wants the SmackDown Women's Championship, that she's been racking up wins and she's been patient, but she thinks it's time that she faces Carmella. The crowd was pretty happy with this. Becky has been on a roll lately. And the crowd has gotten behind her for the last, pretty much for this entire year, it seems like. Fans have been really wanting Becky to get back up at top. This led to a backstage segment between Paige and Carmella, where Paige makes a match next week between Carmella and Becky Lynch. And the stipulation is that if Becky wins, then she will face Carmella at SummerSlam for the SmackDown Women's Championship, which, great. Hopefully I expect Becky to win, and hopefully at SummerSlam she takes that title away from Carmella. I'm curious to see where Asuka goes, because she also was not on the show tonight. So yeah, they got a lot of rebuilding to do with Asuka after all these losses, and I hope that should Becky win at SummerSlam, which I'm pretty sure she will, let her face Asuka down the line. Those two would definitely tear it up. So next we got Ty Dillinger backstage with R-Truth of all people. I keep forgetting that R-Truth. I keep forgetting, one, that he's on SmackDown because he got drafted during the Superstars shakeup. It was one of the kind of like not like the low-key kind of like non-televised draft picks, but he also, I'm struggling to think if he's actually wrestled a match on SmackDown since the shakeup. He probably has, and like if there's been like a battle royal or something, but I honestly can't think of like a singles truth match that I've seen off the top of my head. But Ty's getting ready for his match with Samoa Joe. R-Truth comes in and like it seems like he's trying to hype him up. And Ty's like, I don't want to hear it, man. 10. And, but it was a little bit of, like, comedy, because R-Truth is apparently on his Bluetooth on the phone and wasn't actually listening or speaking to Ty. And it was just all one big silly misunderstanding. Nothing. But, R-Truth is alive. That was the extent of that segment, is that R-Truth still walks among the living. So up next we had Ty Dillinger, the Perfect 10, against Samoa Joe. And apparently this was set up last week. Apparently this wasn't televised, but Ty Dillinger was going to have a match on SmackDown, and as he was making his entrance, Samoa Joe jumped him and beat him down to the number 1. He beat the other 9 numbers out of him and choked him out. And apparently this was only on WB.com or probably their YouTube channels. I was watching that and I was like having this weird moment. It's like, I don't remember talking about that. Like, when did that happen? So this is Ty attempting to get revenge. Attempt is the key word in that statement. He had a hot start, really aggressive, just taking it to Joe, hitting him with his exposed knee and getting some shots in, but Samoa Joe remembered that he's Samoa Joe fighting Ty Dillinger, and then proceeded to destroy Ty, as you would expect, and choke him out with the Coquina Clutch. And yeah, Samoa Joe, as a reminder that Samoa Joe will eat your firstborn child if you look at him wrong. And Paige, this is a little bit later, but apparently there's going to be an announcement next week where Paige is going to reveal AJ's opponent for SummerSlam to challenge him for the WWE Championship. I don't know if she's just going to pick someone or if she's going to set up a number 1 contenders match of some sort, but any answer that is not Samoa Joe is the wrong answer. That's pretty much my feelings on that. There is no one else that should be facing AJ at SummerSlam than Joe. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, we had the Miz. The Miz had a funeral for Team Hell No, complete with pictures, a kind of like like Kane's mask on a mantle being carried out by some like ushers. The whole deal. He comes out, kind of like a nice little touch was as he was walking to the ring. He's shaking a couple of the fans' hands, kind of like saying like, "Oh, thank you for coming, kind of like you would do at a funeral." I thought that was kind of nice. And, he gets in the ring and just starts saying how Team Hell No is done and how he predicted this would happen, and starts ripping into Daniel Bryan, saying that Daniel Bryan's a glory hog, and his comeback has been a bust, and just going on for a good while, just ripping into both of them, but particularly Bryan, as you would expect from Miz. Which of course, if you say Daniel Bryan's name 3 times, he will appear. And that is exactly what happens, where Bryan comes out from behind, from the crowd, attacks him. Miz's usher guys try to stop him. They are promptly beaten down by Bryan, including one of them taking the running knee. But Miz manages to escape before any harm can befall him. That SummerSlam match, which I mean, obviously these two are going to fight at SummerSlam. It's been a long time coming, and that is going to be something else when they finally lock up. Because just even before, just this year, that was always a pipe dream. Was like, obviously Miz and Bryan have fought before, way years ago, but like these two have been joined at the hip since Bryan debuted back in the original incarnation of NXT back in 2010, and since they've always been such perfect rivals for each other. Like they have such a natural rivalry, and that's so rare in WWE now. Like so many rivalries feel so manufactured and forced, with like forced trilogies, and like kind of WWE's idea of a rivalry is like, let's just have the guys fight nonstop and run it into the ground, and then we'll say that the feud is done, but then they'll fight 2 weeks when they renew their rivalry. And there's very few just natural rivalries. Stuff I count like Lita versus Trish is one, Shawn versus Brett, Austin versus Rock, even like recent ones like I've always thought Punk versus Cena was one. And this is one that has years behind it, like Bryan, because they are just the antithesis of each other. And like since Bryan's retirement, ever since the now famous Talking Smack episode where Miz just went off on Bryan and everyone wanted a match between the two, and Miz kept calling Bryan out and started stealing his moves, and Bryan couldn't do anything because he was still retired, and it was just getting fans salivating of like, oh man, why can't these? It seems like they're building to something, but they can't blow it off because Bryan can't wrestle. So it just felt like this terrible tease that we were getting, but now we're gonna get it. It's amazing, and that match should blow the roof off the place because it has been built up for, at least in terms of their recent history, since Bryan retired and became the Smackdown general manager. So it's going to be very satisfying to see Bryan either kick Miz's head off or make him tap out to the yes lock, whatever it may be. I'm very excited for it. So next up, we had Kofi Kingston versus Eric Young, with the New Day and Sandy in each other's respective corners, and this was a good match. This was a fun match. Kofi obviously was Kofi, his normal solid self, and as was Eric Young. These two meshed very well together. It was the first time they've ever touched each other, or not touched each other, but have wrestled a singles match. And if nothing else, this is every time I watch Kofi wrestle a singles match now, it's like I just only think like, man, when the day comes that New Day disbands for good, Kofi is gonna be huge. Like he can, as soon as New Day breaks up, he can make a run for the WWE Championship without any sort of like hesitation, or because one, he's been in the company forever and has won everything multiple times except a world championship, and the fans I think he's earned it with the fans now. Like, like at Money in the Bank when he got like all those huge pops when he was revealed as the New Day representative for the match. Like, people were going crazy for Kofi and wanted to see him win. So like, he's pretty set once they break him up, and like singles matches like this kind of confirm that he can be a strong singles main event talent, to me at least. So Eric Young picked up the win after a bit of interference from Sanity. Sanity continues to kind of rebuild their momentum, which is only a good thing. And then after that, we got our main event: Jeff Hardy, Shinsuke Nakamura, United States Championship rematch for realsies this time. And this was a fine match and a good solid bout between the two. Went on for a good while. Hardy had the match won. He hit the swanton, and things appeared to be over. But alas, Randy Orton, that dastardly Randy Orton, like the snake that he is, came through the crowd, pulled Hardy out of the ring as he was about to get the 3 count, and proceeded to beat the ever-loving crap out of Jeff. Like, just destroy him, as Shinsuke escaped and watched on, seemingly as surprised as the rest of us. The highlight of this beatdown, though, was at one point, so Jeff wears gauges, like gauges for your ears, like those big ones that make your earlobe look like those Africans that you see that have the huge earrings. I mean, not that big, but big. He doesn't wrestle in them usually, but he wears them, so his earlobes are huge. And the Randy sticks his finger into Jeff's empty earlobe, his very large earlobe, and starts yanking on it like he's going to rip Jeff's ear apart. And there was a moment there where I thought he was going to do it. Like, I thought they were actually going to let him do that on live television, and the crowd went nuts for this but not in a like a yay way, but like in a oh my god, like because they zoomed in on it. They showed one girl that was legit like holding her ear, like, and that's the feeling I got to, of like, oh my ear hurts watching this. Like, it was brutal, and I've never seen anything like that before. So that was a really, really great way to kind of cement Randy's heel turn. I think they had to go the extra miles again, like I said about when I reviewed or recapped Extreme Rules, was that Randy has reached a point in his career, because his character, even when he's a good guy, he's a tweener at best, that he can do typically bad or douchebag things, and everyone just goes, oh, Randy, that's just Randy being Randy. This, though, is like, okay, he's a villain. Like, he just tried to rip Jeff Hardy, who has always been beloved. He just tried to tear his ear apart in very sick fashion, and he threw him over the table, and it capped off with him hitting his inverted DDT to Jeff on the floor from the announce table. And yeah, and the whole time Orton was just screaming at Jeff like, "You want to know why I'm doing this? You want to know why? You're just gonna have to wait." I guess you could say he gave him an earful. I was gonna let that joke I'm gonna let that marinate for a bit. Just be happy that I didn't say, like, I guess you could gauge from the audience's reactions that they were as disturbed by Orton's beatdown as the commentators. If you could gauge the reactions, Okay, so yeah, let me stop before Randy Orton comes over and tries to rip my ear apart too. So yeah, this is interesting. So I guess Jeff is moving towards a feud with Randy. That seems obvious. I don't know if Shinsuke will be involved. There was a point where, towards the end of the beatdown, Randy screamed, "Where's Shinsuke?" So I don't know if he also wants the United States Championship, if it's going to become a three-way dance for that belt, or if Jeff and Randy will be their own feud and Shinsuke will get a new challenger. But yeah, you know what this calls for? I think Jeff's going to have to jump off the set again to crush Randy. He's got, I think, getting his ear almost ripped off. I think warrants that, Jeff. So I don't know how you can climb the new set, but I'm sure you'll figure it out because he's a damn spider monkey. But yeah, this is looking like it should be a pretty intense rivalry. So looking forward to see what happens, and also hearing Randy's reasoning when he does explain why the hell he suddenly hates Jeff Hardy with the passion of 1,000 suns. So that was SmackDown Live. This was a good show. Always easier to sit through than Raw. Being 1 hour shorter helps with that, but also there's just less, generally just less stupid to sift through with SmackDown. But they've got some interesting stories lined up. Like I said, I'm excited to see where Randy and Jeff go. Hope to see Samoa Joe get the title shot against AJ. Becky Lynch finally getting a title shot. It looks good. And I'm curious to see where Shinsuke, Asuka, and Rusev go in their respective promos. So, yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, share. And stay tuned until next week. I'll be back with Monday Night Raw next Tuesday. So, till then, thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one.